So welcome to the event today, which is an introduction to HCRI and to the postgraduate course, both in Humanitarian and Conflict Response and in International Disaster Management. I just to kind of introduce the speaker, my name is Dr. Martin Parham. I'm the admissions lead in HCRI. And I'm going to do the introduction today, but you're not going to hear much from me other than that, other than the questions. So I'd like to welcome you and thank you for offering your time today, coming to see us and coming to speak to us. And really the aim of today's session is very much straightforward. It's very much about you're potentially coming to study the course next year, or you maybe signed up to study the course next year. And what we really wanted to do was, a couple of months before the course starts, give you the opportunity to kind of have a little bit of an understanding about what you're letting yourself in for, and listen to some of the students that have actually or currently are doing the course this year, and then potentially give you the opportunity to ask some questions about worries that you might have around arriving and living in Manchester, or being in Manchester, or studying the course, those kind of things. So that's kind of the aim of what we're going to do today. I'd like to thank everybody for being here. I'm going to let people introduce, well, I know actually I'll introduce people. So on the screen next to myself, you'll see Neve. Neve works as an admissions assistant for the faculty in SALC, which is the School of Arts, Languages and Culture. And Neve kindly has helped set up this session today. Then we've got on my screen as it stands, Stephanie Sodero, who is the current postgraduate director, and she is in charge of all of the courses at postgraduate level. So you'll hear from Stephanie in a minute. I'd also like to introduce Dr. Antoine Burgard, who's in the middle of the screen there, just waving. Antoine is the pathway lead for HCR. So that's one of the two degree programs. The other person who couldn't be here today is Dr. Ayam Fatoum, who is the pathway lead. A pathway lead is basically the person in charge of that section for international disaster management. So you've got most of the senior people here today. And then also I'd like to introduce you to Charlotte Govey and to Kohai Shiota. They're both students currently on the IDM course, and they're going to talk a little bit about their experiences. And then we've also got Luke Henderson, who is a current student on HCR, and he's going to talk about his experience around that part of the course as well. So again, thank you for coming. I'm going to share my screen. Hopefully it will share and you'll be able to see it. But let's get started. So here we go. Unless I've missed anything, is anything anyone wants to say? Oh, and Jeremy, I've not introduced you. That's really poor. I knew there would be someone. There's always someone that I've missed. I'm working my way around the screen and missing things out. So Jeremy Burgess is from the International Office today, and he's going to talk briefly about how the International Office can help students that are arriving from abroad. So if you're in another country at the moment, very, very much welcome. Okay, Stephanie, am I good to go? Yep. Oh, Stephanie's going to man the Teams chat as well. If that's a good point. If you would like to ask a question as you're going along, I'll be looking at the Teams chat as other people are speaking. But you're very welcome to add comments or add questions if you don't want to come on and speak. And we will do our best to kind of feed those questions in during the session as it works, or potentially save them to the end if that's a more appropriate time. Okay, here we go. Yeah, thanks, Stephanie. Good idea. Okie dokie. Okay. So just from the team, can you all see the slides? Perfect. Yes. Thank you. Okay, so again, welcome everyone to this session. This session will aim to run for about 45 minutes on what is a really warm day in the UK today. So perfect conditions to be sitting indoors, stuck in front of a computer. So like I say, what we're going to try and cover today is a little bit about why you might want to come to HCRI. So what makes HCRI special as a place to study international disaster management or humanitarian conflict response? like I said, Jeremy's here. He's going to talk to you about what the international office can do to support your arrival if you're coming from overseas, or once you're here, how the international office can help you. Antoine is going to talk to you about the different courses that we offer. So some of you may be signed up for IDM. And if I say IDM, I apologize. I mean International Disaster Management, and HCR, which is Humanitarian and Conflict Response. So if we're talking about those two modules today, which are the two key talk modules. Then we're going to have some of the thoughts of the students around what they've done this year, why they came to the course, what some of the challenges that they've had, but some of the things that they really enjoyed. And then really it's an opportunity for you to ask some questions. So we're going to try and keep to those times. I'm already overrunning, so I'm going to be quiet in a second. But just before we do start, in case you haven't got this detail already, here's some really important contacts. The current people in the current role. So Stephanie is currently the postgraduate director. Our emails are really easy to do. Okay, it's literally our first name dot our second name at manchester.ac.uk. Okay, so if you need to contact any of us, I'm not sure why my name is in capitals, but if you need to contact any of us, you're very welcome. I'll put them up at the end as well. So one of the things that I'm going to briefly say is what is unusual about HCRI. So I know Stephanie's going to talk about this in a minute, but we're principally four things. Okay, and I think that's a really important thing to get your head around. Global health, I'm going to say to you, disaster management, conflict and response, and humanitarianism. And what really distinguishes Manchester in that context is that variation and that interdisciplinary nature. So based on that, I'm going to pass you over to Stephanie, who's going to talk about HCRI and why HCRI is a wonderful place to come.
Hi, everyone. My name is Stephanie, and I'm a senior lecturer in climate change and health, and I love working at HCRI. It was formed a number of years ago because people in the humanitarian sector wanted to complement their humanitarian practice with academic backing. And so that was the origin story of HCRI. So we are our drivers, our motivators are making a difference in the real world. I love the diversity of my colleagues. So we've got, if I think about the people who are near me in my office, I've got an historian in Antoine, a geographer in Martin. Across the hall is a medic. We have sociologists, specialists in global health, and more. So there's this truly interdisciplinary approach. And so you will be exposed to a wide array of different ways of thinking through the problems that you are most concerned about. The classroom activities, so in class, we have enthusiastic, warm, committed lecturers who offer this. I liken it to being a kid in a candy store. The selection of courses is just what I mean, I want to take the courses, and I'm one of the lecturers. So there's this wonderful array of courses with diverse activities in the classroom. For example, in classes this year, we went to UK Med, a Manchester-based global health organization, and I had a tour of their facilities. We had a menstrual pad making workshop where we got scissors and needles and material to have a conversation about gender and health in the context of disaster. Martin runs an annual disaster simulation for our students, as well as facilitates our students running disaster simulation activities for secondary students in Manchester. So there's a chance to practice your learning right off the bat. Also related to the classroom, there are various field trips. So Martin took, you can see in the middle photo there, Martin took students to study disaster management in terms of a volcano in Sicily. There was another trip to India to just explore humanitarian issues. And there's a photo in the bottom left corner of the signing of a renewal of a memorandum of understanding between HCRI and Médecins Sans Frontières. Again, linking back to our original origins and our continual links to practice. And with that, I'll wrap it up. And if any of my colleagues have anything to add, please do.
Thanks, Stephanie. Just to kind of add to that, you've summed up really nicely there how students have a lot of opportunities on the course or across the different elements of the course. When students begin in September, do they just begin in their lessons? Or do they have some form of introduction that introduces them to the university? Or do they have some form of kind of introduction to the staff in the department?
Great. So yeah, we have a welcome week. It starts September 21st this year, and it's an opportunity. Well, a lot of things, a lot of magic happens during Welcome Week. So this is an opportunity for you to get to meet your peers in the program for the first time. And this is the people you meet here are the basis for lifelong friendships and for networks in your career. And so you get to know them in this both formal sessions where we discuss the nuts and bolts of the credits that you need to do and how the course works, as well as supporting sessions like learning how the library works at the University of Manchester. You also have an opportunity to meet one-on-one, in a group session with your academic advisor, and that's a support person who can help you with a range of things from careers to academics and other concerns throughout the academic year. There are also social events. Last year there was a barbecue and it was a lot of fun.
Brilliant, Stephanie. Thank you. I hope that kind of helps understand that you're not going to arrive and just start lessons, I think, which is the most important thing. HCRI is actually quite a small, relatively small team. And I say that compared to some university departments that can be like 50 to hundreds in their size. And the consequence of that is not only do you get to know the people on your course, but you get to know the staff really well as well. Okay, I think that's a key thing. Right, brilliant. Okay then, so I'm going to pass you over to Jeremy now. Jeremy, sorry, I should have asked. You've got some slides, haven't you? So I'm just going to stop sharing.
I do, yeah. So if I could just share my screen, that
of course you can.
Whoops, would be wonderful. We'll just allow a moment for it to wake up. I take it little nod from colleagues if you can see the screen, please. Yep.
Brilliant.
Okay,
Thanks,
super. So good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone, wherever you are in the world. So my name is Jerry Burgess, and I work in the international office with a remit that covers much of the Middle East region. And we'll come on to what myself and colleagues in the international office do in a little while. But I do want to say that it is my privilege and pleasure to share this time with you as you begin this stage of your academic, personal and professional development journey. So without further ado, a brief introduction to the international team. Essentially, we are there from the initial inquiry stage, running all the way through to registration. And obviously, we've just heard what happens in that sort of welcome and induction week. So we're there to guide and support you throughout that entire process. Within the international office, there are members of the team who have designated country responsibilities, and they will also be responsible for developing a relationship with you. And if you happen to have used a local agency, then they will also have a relationship with them, although we don't work with agencies in all countries. In most cases, staff in the international office are based here in the UK, but in some instances, we also have staff in other countries, so China, India, Malaysia, and the USA. And those colleagues work in tandem with those of us here in the UK. So essentially, we are a central point of contact for lots of inquiries from all over the world. And if you do join the university, then we will hand you over to obviously our academic colleagues, and then beyond that to our alumni team, where we may draw upon your expertise to help inform other people about what it's like to live and learn here in Manchester. We do regularly attend various events in different countries. I would signpost you towards our country pages. There is a web link coming up. At the moment, not a lot is being populated there because we haven't yet set our agenda for the coming academic cycle. So maybe check back in a couple of weeks' time. I'm very conscious of time, so moving broadly on. In terms of what we do, well, aside from managerial responsibilities, I'd say we have the privilege of accompanying you for much of your journey towards the university. We are not on performance-related pay. We just want to make sure we are able to share enough information with you so that you can make an informed decision about whether or not your course and the institution is the right fit for you and your professional goals and ambitions. This slide basically shows the fun side of the job. There are other things like English language that we get involved in as well. But as you can tell, it's very much centered around you, the student. So pre-application awareness, what do we offer? What's the entry criteria? What are the tuition fees? What scholarship provision, if any? And some of us sit on the Global Future Scholarship Panel. How do we connect you with departments, with alumni, with current students? How can we signpost you to other support services such as accommodation or visa or special needs requirements as may be appropriate? And in the international office, we also send communications to you which are separate from, reinforced but do not replicate department specific communications as well. Some of you are fortunate enough to either be in the UK and it's easy for you to visit the campus, or some of you have the funds to come and visit the UK, and so we would often host individual one-on-one tours, and then we also, especially at this time of year, prepare you for enrollment, so that sort of preparation and orientation side of things. We don't do all of this by ourselves. We work with other colleagues, so academic departments such as today, the careers team, the legal team, the accommodation office, as well as a range of other stakeholders from around the world like ministries of education, for example. Every year we do host essentially a Get Ready series of live and recorded seminars, as well as provide detailed information on our web pages for people that want to self-service. And this essentially helps you to navigate this final stage from meeting the conditions of your offer into actually arriving at the university. So you find lots of information there to do with things like a visa, health requirements if appropriate, accommodation, and so forth. And I think that brings me essentially to the end of my time. So I'll just hold this slide up for a little moment. So if you do need to contact the international office, our general email address is at the top there, international@Manchester. If you want to find the country pages, it's manchester.ac.uk/study/international. And then there's a link there to the current Get Ready pages as well. My name is Jerry Burgess, and I just would like to encourage you to review the Get Ready information, even if you're thinking of applying in a future year, as it gives you an idea in terms of how we direct you in towards the university in those final weeks. And with that, I will yield back to my colleagues.
Thanks, Jerry. That's very kind of you. So just to kind of plea there as well, if you have any questions and you are coming from overseas and you need to know anything about that transition from where you're coming to Manchester, asking the international office is a good starting point. And you've got Jerry's name there, so it's not like you're just applying to a faceless email address. Please do actually make contact with the team. Please do make contact with Jerry as well. And actually, he if he can't answer your questions, can help direct you to the right person as well. So thanks very much. Right, I'm going to reshare my screen again and then introduce. Oh, brilliant! Jeremy's put it into the chat. So I'm going to pass on to my colleague now, Antoine, who's going to give you an introduction to the course structure. So over to you, Antoine.
Thanks a lot, Martin. And yeah, I'll promise that I won't do like last time and talk.
Yeah, you've got 10-minute link. That's it, man.
I'm just, as Stephanie said already, I'm just excited about my my colleagues teaching, and yeah, sometimes I do want to audit some of the modules. But yeah, to briefly present, so we have plenty of time to hear from our current students, but I mean, quite similar to any kind of regular MSc or MA programs. our programs are going to be centered around a dissertation. That is going to be due. I mean, the current students can tell us more about the process, but due usually late August, early September, 15,000 words. Steph or Martin, correct me if I'm wrong. And quite a broad range of, quite a lot of agency and freedom in designing your research topic, of course, in conversation with your lecturers and academic advisors and dissertation supervisors. You then, in the IDM, you're going to have two specific IDM core module on sort of broad introduction to disaster management and then disaster politics. That is a bit more of like a social sciencey module, but with very interesting overlaps between the two. And then you have another core module, but that you're going to share with the other cohort, the HCR cohort, research and evaluation methods. That is a bit of a hybrid module on one hand, teaching you to work on your dissertation, but also teaching you other research methods that we think are valuable later on in the field. Then you're going to have, as Steph said, a broad range of optional modules. IDM, just to give you a few examples of the diversity of disciplines. If I just look at the top of the list, so citizen participation in disasters with Nimesh, that is kind of at the crossroad of anthropology and sociology, but with entanglement with international relations as well. And of course, this strong grounding in disaster studies. GIS with Martin, much more specific, but also with concrete, very, very concrete skills at the end of the module on how to use a geographical information system in disaster risk reduction and response and recovery. Another example is, for instance, IAM is not here to talk about it, but the systemic approaches to disaster management. So systemic thinking, that again is quite of a hybrid discipline that is both in management, but also in philosophy. So very diverse in terms of theoretical grounding. And then you're going to have the possibility to do vital mobilities with Steph. That Steph already mentioned some of the really amazing activities that she organized within that module. And of course, also choosing a bunch of options from the HR pathway as well that I can present in a moment. Next slide, Martin. Then, yeah, you have a bunch of, so you have the possibility each year to select one module that is non-HCRI coded. Most of the time, our students are going to take modules from the Global Development Institute. There is a bit of a sister institute, but in another school, focus on development, but with a lot of collaborations and overlap in the kind of things we are doing. But for instance, yeah, climate change and development, or migration, mobility and displacement. Then you have also other modules in other schools, in other faculties. And you can also always ask to your pathway lead if there's one specific module that is not on the list, but that you will be interested in taking for whatever reason. For instance, the development of your dissertation, you can always ask. You also have the possibility, and this is true for IDM and HCR students, to take one online module. Most of them are within the program that we run jointly with the Liverpool School of, I always forget the full name, LSHTM, School of Health and tropical medicine. I think that's it. With a university in Liverpool, so not very far from us. And that is open, of course, to staff from Doctors Without Borders. And this, again, you're going to have a broad range of discipline in the kind of modules you can take. Some that are much more like health related, so community approaches to health. That was taught this year by a trained medical doctor. critical approaches to the managing of humanitarian operations. I don't know if any of our current students in the room have taken it, but it's a very kind of practical module that you can enroll in if you have previous operational experiences. Next slide, Martin. Of course, I'm speeding up a little bit, sorry, but I just want to make sure that the students have enough time. And also, Stephanie has kindly put all the lists with the modules and quite specific descriptions. And also, of course, if you have any questions specific to a module, message me, Steph, Martin, or Ayam. When it comes to the MA, so it's the same structure. The only difference is that you have two specific core modules. So humanitarianism and conflict response inquiries. That is a kind of broad module around all the concepts that are going to be key to the degree, and then history of humanitarian aid. That is basically going to historicize, put in historical perspectives a lot of the current debates and trends in the humanitarian sector, and even more broadly in the development sector. And then you have a wide range of optional modules, again, quite diverse in terms of disciplines and also focus. So, for instance, some of them are quite narrow in their focus. For instance, the one on armed groups, the one on camps, but there are, of course, key issues when it comes to the sector, but there are good opportunities for you to kind of dive in one specific module. For instance, the one on armed groups is how humanitarian actors can work, negotiate, collaborate, broadly speaking, with armed groups. Conceptualizing the camp, it's basically looking at the broad range, of course, of camp settings that humanitarian actors have to navigate, from concentration camps to refugee camps, detention centers, and so on. Again, so you have the possibility to take some of the modules that I've already covered, vital mobilities with Steph. Anthropology of violence is also a very popular one among students. Humanitarian diplomacy, I'm assuming maybe Luc, because he's right in the middle at the moment, might have more to say, but it's quite a popular module as well because it's based on interviewing practitioners in the field. So almost every week you're going to meet someone who is currently working in, for instance, in MSF or in other kind of leading humanitarian organizations. And then, Martin, next slide. But I think, this I've already covered it. It's the same options as that for the MSc. So the possibility to take one online option and one module outside of HCRI. And some of the popular modules that our students in HCRI are going to take are based in the politics department. For instance, rethinking peacemaking in the 21st century is a good example, kind of self-explanatory in the title. But yeah, really a broad range of module. Of also format of delivery. I do encourage you, I mean, it's always nice to take an online option, but of course the face-to-face experience is always better. But that's something that you're going to have plenty of time to discuss with either myself this summer or then later on with your academic advisor during that first group meeting that Steph mentioned. And because you have these first 2 weeks to kind of play around with your module selection, basically do not stress out about it now. Almost none of the modules, at least in HCR, I think maybe Martin, for you in IDM, it's slightly different, but we have no cap on modules. So there's no particular pressure in choosing. It just makes sure that within these 2 weeks, you audit as many modules as possible. So you are quite, sure of the decision you are making in the end. But do remember that, yes, Steph, Martin, myself, and others are always happy to assist on the selection of the modules. Thanks, Martin and everyone. And of course, I'm available also in the chat if you have specific questions about module selection.
Brilliant, Antoine. Thank you so much. Yeah, I mean, you'll see that there is quite a lot of crossover in terms of some of the options that are available. And like Antoine said, there's generally the option if you're an MA student. Well, MA student, you've got most of the options. IDM, I would say that some of the modules perhaps are a little bit. I want to say more practical, but I feel like I should be careful what I say because, for example, GIS that I take is something that is available to the IDM students, but not currently to the MA students. So the different applications, I guess, in terms of the use of the content in the modules. I'm just going to kind of touch on this as well. I think we've touched on this already, certainly in terms of what Antoine has already said. So some of the modules have the opportunity to do local visits. Stephanie talked about the link that we have to UK Med. We've got we take students to the kind of warehouse, or I know Stephanie does anyway. And I know on some of the modules there's the option to go overseas. I mean, I've got that option in my module as well. And there's also the option to undertake work during the day, kind of localized fieldwork opportunities. I think rather than us talk about this, I think probably the best thing to do is to hear from our students and how they perceive the course. So the way we're going to do this is Charlotte and Kohai both are on international disaster management, and then Luke's on HCR. And to make it a little bit more kind of accessible, I figured that it might be easier to have Charlotte and Kohai go first and talk about their experiences to the course, and then bring Luke in as well to talk about his experience with HCR and then perhaps how that differs. So Charlotte, Kohai, are you okay with that? Am I okay to pass over to you?
Yeah, sounds good.
Yes.
So I can just start off and talk about what sort of led me to the course in the first place. So I studied geography at the University of Birmingham, and whilst I loved studying geography, it was always that sort of hazards and the interaction of disasters with people that was what interested me most. And I felt like with geography it was really broad, but I wanted to specialise a bit more, so that made me start to look at master's courses. And then I sort of found this one at Manchester. Being from Manchester myself, that was quite accessible. I could live at home, and I already knew that I liked the city, so that was a bonus as well. Do you want to talk about what brought you to the course, Kohei?
Yeah, like before coming here, like I have worked as a pharmacist for 5 years, and then followed by like 5 years in international development, focusing on mostly like health sectors, and the 3 years in humanitarian sector, like with organizations such as MSF, and then I don't know, like the Japanese disaster relief medical teams. Then why I came to this course is I think like there were two main reasons like I decided to join this course. Like first, I wanted to develop my interdisciplinary expertise regarding the disaster management. Like while my field experience, like it built a practical knowledge in disaster response, but I believe that becoming a true disaster management professional require much broader understanding of the entire disaster management from the preparedness until the recovery section. So that's what I'm coming to this course.
Yeah, and then to sort of summarize my experiences this year, I'd say they've been absolutely brilliant. I've had a brilliant year, and kind of to repeat what's already been said, but I think what's made it so good is the diversity of the modules and gaining such a broad but also detailed knowledge of so many different things. Field trip experiences, so I went to some islands off Sicily to do some field work there, and that was really good academically, but also really brought the course together, and have made lifelong friends, especially from that trip. And then went on the UK Med field trip, and that was really good to see stuff that we learn about in the classroom in real life as well. So yeah, just the varied and yeah, really exciting and great course.
Can I ask you both actually? So Kohai, you talked about the things that you aimed to do before you came to do the course, and Charlotte, obviously your aims were slightly different. How does the course match up to what it is that you arrived with in terms of intent? Did it change you? Did it meet what you wanted to do, or has it kind of taken you in a different direction?
Yeah, I can go first. I think for me, I knew that I was interested in disasters and that interaction between the environment and people, but I didn't know exactly what a career in that area would look like. And through meeting people on the course and the experience that they've had, and through having guest speakers and field work, has kind of shaped. I now know a lot more what careers exist and what would suit me most as well. So yeah, I think that's kind of how I've developed through the course.
Brilliant. Thanks, Charlotte. What about you, Kohai?
Yeah, that is like a very interesting question. Like, so before coming here, like I have a lot of the like experience based on the like a field. So after like learning through this course, like yeah, it's getting like academic experience. Like it's a little bit different with like a practical side, but like making the like how to make the evidence in the academic way. This helps me like in the future careers, I can making more like evidence in my like future working place in kind of like certain uncertain the phrase. So that is like my most like invaluable experience, I think.
Brilliant, thank you. I'm going to bring in Luke. And I apologies, Luke. I haven't taught Luke. I've taught Charlotte and Kohai. So Luke's gonna. I just want to ask Luke about your experience, Luke, with the same kind of question. Why did you arrive to Manchester? What were your motivations for joining the course in the first place? What have you got out of studying the MA, and how has it kind of changed your view going forwards?
So I really decided to join the course because I come from a history background. I'd say history is my undergrad. But I'd been working for 2 years in psychosocial support and aid distribution for displaced populations in Greece. And I really felt that I needed to come back home and specify to continue my humanitarian career. So the kind of modules that really appealed to me were stuff like the history of humanitarian aid and emergency humanitarian assistance and armed groups, which I felt would really benefit me moving forward, going into slightly different sectors of the humanitarian field. And it's been amazing. I've learned a lot of skills that I didn't necessarily think I would beforehand, such as creating training handbooks, policy briefs. We made a training video for conceptualizing the camp. And so it was really kind of, I think a holistic education in humanitarianism and conflict response that will hopefully help guide my future work in the field.
Luke, are you going to go back to what you previously did before the course? Is it a stopgap to kind of build your understanding and knowledge, or did you kind of stop that completely and now you're going to look for something else?
For me, I really I think next I want to focus on emergency response and emergency relief and conflict response as a broader kind of niche in the field. And so it was very much that kind of, I knew a lot. I knew a lot about psychosocial support from working in that sector, but actually in terms of kind of conflict response and humanitarianism as a kind of discipline, as a kind of ethos, I would consider myself a practicing humanitarian, but had never actually really studied it. So it was kind of, it was a multitude of factors that it just really made sense to continue my humanitarian career. But no, next, I think it's moving more towards the point of displacement rather than working in refugee camps.
So, I mean, some of the people listening might kind of hear your experiences, all of you, and think, wow, we've got quite a broad range of people on this course. They're not just students that have come from university and then are coming to do a master's degree. They're people that come from having worked experience in the field and actually are using the course to perhaps build on that experience. Can I just direct a question at you, Luke? You talk about the idea of conflict response and humanitarianism. Just for the purpose of the people listening, how does like HCRI develop those themes? What are the differences between those themes for people who might not be clear?
Well, I think Humanitarianism and Conflict Response Inquiries module really kind of opened up the major themes, the 4 governing principles, but also how to challenge and question those principles. And one of the things that I've really enjoyed from this year is actually hearing from experts and telling us to challenge the avant-garde and to telling us to challenge humanitarianism, and how do the 4 principles interact, and how in this modern world that we're working in, how might they not quite be as relevant, or have they changed? Have things adapted over time? And to really not kind of focus on, obviously a lot of it has been quite history based, which has been amazing, but it's learning from history to guide the contemporary, and that's been great, because I think you naturally kind of assume things that right and wrong, morals, ethos, but actually you look at history, and then especially the history of humanitarian aid, and you realize that actually humanitarianism has caused a lot of damage, and that actually I might not have known that without having done this master's, and that it's very much kind of trying to guide the future generations on the best practices and the best methods.
Brilliant, thank you. You're almost preempting my next question through what you've actually said there, and I'll bring in Charlotte and I'll bring Kohai as well. You talk about the idea that the course has taught you how to question the kind of traditions. Why is this course important going forward then? Like, what has changed that means studying international disaster management or studying humanitarian and conflict response is an important course going forward?
I think it's just that, you know, we live in an ever-changing world, and a very, very kind of divisive and conflict-ridden and challenging landscape. And realistically, it's the kind of holistic knowledge that you gain that will really help to shape your future, that is quite important, I found.
Brilliant, thank you. Charlotte?
Yeah, I think I was probably naive in a way when I first started the course to think that people who work in disaster management or humanitarianism are ultimately just there as a force of good, and I think majority of the time that is, but the academic side of the course really taught me to think more critically about the actions that you might take in the field, and sort of that cultural awareness, and yeah, and then for the more disaster management side, why it's so important now, I think there's the obvious climate change link and the likelihood of more intense, more frequent disasters.
Yeah, as we're sitting in a heat wave. Yeah, and Kohai, what about you?
Yeah, this is very like specific for me, like for studying in like Manchester here, like it's like a totally very unique like time for me, like because like I studied a lot of things in Japan, but studying in the UK is also like a totally different. So this difference is like making like a huge like invaluable time for me. And also like working like before, like I working into like sometimes like uncertainty condition. So that time like it have difficulty making like important decision in that situation. So there's no clear right answers. So I feel that having like a very like a strong like academic foundation like acknowledgement would provide like a solid basis for the decision making. So that's why like, this learning, this academic skill, like learning in Manchester, this is very like a good time for me.
Brilliant. Stephanie, I can see your hand up, so I'm going to bring you in.
Yeah, thanks. This is great. I just want to flag for Charlotte that there's a question from Jasmine in the chat. She says, Charlotte, that you followed the same path that she's looking at, a geography, a BSc to international disaster management. And she's wondering, how did you find the transition, particularly whether you felt you had a good base of knowledge?
Charlotte, you're on mute.
Sorry. Yes, so it's a really good question. I think geography did prepare me really well for the course. I think because it's a broad subject and you've got that bit sciencey background, but also you have written essays and you have that critical thinking side of things that gave me a good knowledge base. But I found it really interesting to have discussions with people that could come from different academic backgrounds, especially like Luke has done history and we're always a bit like opposed history, geography, but the discussions that we could have together and the similarities we could find between different disciplines was also really interesting. Or there were people on the course that had come from academic backgrounds that you might have never paired with disaster management or humanitarian conflict response. So I know someone on the humanitarian course that had done biology undergrad, and they still seem to have like got lots out of the course. So I think it is very like accessible from people from different academic backgrounds, and that's what kind of makes it work as well.
Brilliant. Sorry, I realized I was on mute. I'm going to ask you one more question. Unless there's other questions in the chat, because it's a big part of the course, and Antoine mentioned it, the dissertation. So for those of you that are listening, the course runs from September to December. And during that time, you very much just do academic modules, or you do modules in class, and you get to know your peers, the colleagues, and then you do a second round in immediately after Christmas. There's no exams as well, which is also quite useful, I should add. But then you get to having finished research and evaluation methods, which leads you almost into your preparation for the dissertation. You're linking with a supervisor and you establish a kind of one-to-one relationship with an individual member of staff in the team. So you're right in the middle of that right now. The deadline is in September. So I think my question to you is, how are you coping with that? And how has HCRI supported you through that? And how has that kind of built on what you've learned on the course so far? So tough ones there. I'm open to anyone, whoever feels like they could go straight away. Luke, you look like you're ready.
Yeah, no, I can link into what Antoine was saying earlier about negotiations and diplomacy, because for my dissertation, I'm researching ethical dilemmas in maritime search and rescue. And as part of that, I'm hoping to interview practitioners in the field and really discover what criminalization, how it affects them, what it means to them. And so a module like negotiations and diplomacy, because we had each week, well, for 5 consecutive weeks, we had experts come in and we interviewed them. So I really got first-hand experience of performing these interviews, which is really great for me now, actually going out on my own to find practitioners and experts to interview. I have that confidence that I know what I'm doing and that hopefully I'm asking the right kind of questions. And yeah, it's another interesting thing is that we've had quite a lot of guest lecturers and workshops in. And for example, we had Mikkel Newman come in to give us a lecture on protection gaps in search and rescue, in maritime search and rescue. So that for me, hearing about having an expert talk about that area of search and rescue was really interesting. And so I just feel like over the year, I've been set up quite well to be able to do my dissertation independently. And yeah, it's been really good.
Brilliant.
It's going well so far.
It's lovely to hear that, Luke, as well. And I'm delighted that you're actually conducting face-to-face interviews, or you're not just attending the course, it's actually you're using the material from the course to do something, like you say, independently. And I think that's a really important thing. You're in essence speaking out to the same. My students in my dissertation group are all doing similar things by the sound of it to what you're doing. So I'm really pleased to hear that. Charlotte, I'm going to pass over to you next.
Yeah, so I found initially thinking of what I was going to do my dissertation on quite daunting and difficult, but the course definitely set me up to be able to come to a conclusion on what I wanted to research. I've basically combined the key concepts from 2 modules that I did in my second semester. So I'm looking at disaster politics and like state governance and disaster governance, and citizen participation in disasters. So kind of theoretically, they gave me the grounding of the research, but then I think it's more throughout the whole course, like the sort of assignments and essays that you're encouraged to write, and the way that you're encouraged to write them as well, providing evidence, drawing from diverse range of sources. I know people that are doing primary data collection. I'm doing more desk-based research, but we'll find the research that we did in the fieldwork trip really helpful for their dissertation, just kind of being familiar with those sort of techniques. So I think it's sort of always lingering in the background, and maybe when you're doing the modules you don't quite realize, but then once you're writing your dissertation you're like, oh yeah, I remember this from that lecture or whatever. So yeah, I think it's sort of always in the background and always in the back of your mind, and you do end up drawing on bits even if you're not fully aware that you are as well.
Can I just ask you quickly, Charlotte? You talked about doing all of the modules and writing a lot, yeah, which obviously is part of any degree. When you joined the course, did you have any concerns about raising your level to this level, as in to master's level, and how well supported were you in getting your standard to the level that you needed?
Yeah, so I was quite worried about that. I think in our first sort of induction session, we had a hopes and fears, and that one of the common fears was, am I good enough to write at master's level? And I think also going from one academic institution to another, you're not sure whether things are going to be marked and valued in the same way they were when you did your undergrad, and then you're now doing it at master's level is also an added kind of fear. But I think throughout all my modules, the support from the lecturer was always there, really easy to email any concerns. And also some of the earlier assignments feel like they do ease you in a little bit more. So they'll only be worth 20% of your grade for that module. So you get a little practice that's not going to massively impact your grade if it doesn't go quite as you hoped. And then you've also got your academic advisor there. So if there's maybe a problem that you keep finding coming up with every essay you write, you struggle with a certain thing, they can be really helpful to discuss that with on a more general like way as well.
Brilliant, thanks, Charlotte. So Kohai, obviously you have come from completely different background, which was Japan, and you've come from a career. So how have you developed that into your dissertation?
Yeah, actually, definitely, English is my second language, so it is very hard for me to even just writing the English essay itself, because Japanese student system is totally different with British system. So initially I was struggling with writing just essay, anything speaking English as well. So that's why I could get a lot of support from the academic supervisors. Even each module lecturer can give us a proper feedback, and then it helps me a lot. Even apart from that, even we can get a lot of support from the libraries. There is My Learning Essentials, and then also there is academic success program. This is helping to how to write the academic English essay or any academic writing, even academic speaking. There are lots of workshop is available from the library. So that is also helping a lot for me. So in terms of dissertation, after learning how to write the academic English like essay, then like I can get like a lot of the knowledgement to make the like the writing styles academically. So that is
brilliant. Thank you, Kohai. I'm conscious of time, so I'm just gonna move on. I just want to show you this. So we're going to have some opportunities for questions in a minute, and I'm going to leave you with my colleagues, Stephanie and Antoine, because I've got to go. Apologies. But I've put up on these slides the links to accommodation, finances, as in to support your kind of being at Manchester. And then also the last link here is about registration at Manchester as well, in terms of the process. So I wanted to share that with you. And I also wanted to share the emails of the people that are the leads. So Iam is currently not here today, but he's the lead on IDM, International Disaster Management. Antoine is the current lead on Humanitarian and Conflict Response. And Stephanie is the current lead on as the PGT director. So I'm going to stop there. Partly because I'm really sorry I've got to go, but I'm going to pass you over now to Stephanie. And so yeah, thank you for being here, and thank you Charlotte, thank you Luke, and thank you Kohai for your time as well. I appreciate that. So over to you, Stephanie.